Can you tell me your name?
My name is Miss Jeanette Richardson.
And what profession are you in?
I'm an elementary school teacher and I work as a reading resource teacher.
Okay. We're going to be talking and I want you to tell me your point of view. Tell me what it was like when schools were, during the segregated.
Oh, okay. When schools were segregated, I went to an all-black elementary school, and it was grades 1st through 6th grade. I had excellent teachers when I went to school. I was in what we considered our top 10, one of the top 10 6th graders in my classroom. And so we excelled both academically and socially. And one of the neat things was that there was a sense of community in the school. People in the community were involved, and especially the church was involved. Your parents were very involved. My mom and my teachers knew each other, and if I misbehaved, which I did sometime, it was just a matter of calling my mom or walking me home. And the teacher actually knew my mom because they graduated high school together. A lot of the kids in my classes had teachers who went to the same churches with them, and so it was a big sense of community in the schools. Some academically, though, I used to always wonder as a kid why the books that I got were kind of tattered or they had names in them. It's like we never got new books, and a lot of times they were torn, and I wondered about that.
Did you have different books from everybody in the class?
Everybody had the same books, but I used to always wonder why they were tattered and torn, and it wasn't until I went to 7th grade that I understood what had actually happened.
Call the office, Ms. Wilson. Ms. Carlson, call the office.
Was there anything different that you saw, maybe the way they treated you?
This happened, when I was in 7th grade, schools had become desegregated, and some of my friends and I decided we wanted to go to a predominantly white school, which was one of the schools here in Plant City. And when I went there, I noticed that the materials that we got were all new. The books were new. They weren't torn and tattered like the ones that we had gotten before. And I also, as a student, I remember struggling when I got in 7th grade. Unlike before, I was one of the top students in my 6th grade class, but I struggled when I went to 7th grade. It was because there were a lot of things that I hadn't been exposed to. Now, as an adult, I don't think it was because I didn't get, the teachers weren't equipped to teach me. I had excellent teachers in my elementary school, but I just don't think that the resources and the materials were the same. And so we were like it seems like we were a year behind. So it was really a challenge as a junior high school student to get caught up with my peers.
Did you eventually catch up?
Oh, I did eventually catch up to my peers, but it was really something. It was really an eye-opener for me, because I always thought everybody used the same books and the same materials throughout the schools. I didn't know any better until I went to a different school in 7th grade.
Were you ever retained in the same grade?
No, I was never retained. 7th grade was the year that I struggled the most, and then after that I caught up and I was fine. Now, when I went to the new school, I had, in fact, one of the teachers that I remember was my 7th grade English teacher, and I had never had a white teacher before, and she worked really hard with me to make sure I knew the things that I needed to know. And strangely enough, when I was working at this job trying to earn money and go to school at the same time, she was a patient at the hospital years and years later, and I remembered her, and I never forgot how hard how she worked to try to help me be a good student in 7th grade. So she really worked with me and helped me a whole lot.
Okay. Now, can you tell me what it was like going to a school when the schools became desegregated?
It was different because none of us had ever had that experience before. So in my classrooms, just say, for example, if there were 30 students, I was the only African American student in the classroom. And, you know, the teachers were nice, and they were just like any other teacher, you know, just teachers that you see today. They were there to do a job, and they were, you know, trying to do their job to the best of their ability. However, you know, because it was something new for everybody at that time, I was the only one, and I was always by myself in my class, except for the help of the teacher. That was pretty much it. So, you know, you just kind of felt alone a lot. And it was so much so until after 2 years of attending the school, I asked my mom if I could transfer back to an all-black school. And that very same year, they passed the desegregation laws where all public schools were integrated. And so all of the school that I wanted to go to became a 6th grade center, and the school that I was attending became 7th through 9th grade. So I stayed at that school, but then because other African American students also came to that school, I you know, was reconnected with a lot of my friends that I had gone to school with when I was in 1st through 6th grade, because they all came to that school.
Did you see any difference in the behavior with maybe your peers or the staff?
As far as the staff, as I said before, the staff, it was just a typical caring staff that, you know, worked to the best of their ability to educate the students. Didn't matter who you were, you know, they were there to do a job, and they did it. However, with the students, because it was something new with African Americans and white students coming together, your peers were still my friends were still mainly the African American students, and then you had the white students, and so it was still divided at that time. Still divided.
But everything else, you had the same privilege?
We had the same privileges, the same rules applied to everybody. I don't ever, you know, I don't ever remember being treated unfairly or anything like that.
Now, what advice would you have for a future teacher, you know, in your experience as a teacher and as a student going through all of this?
Just simply that, you know, whenever children walk into your classroom, it doesn't matter where they come from, what their backgrounds are, that all children, it should always be assumed that that child is there to learn, and it doesn't matter where they come from, that you educate them to the best of your ability and get to know them for who they are. And that would be my advice to future teachers.
Now, how many years have you been, you know, in the school system?
I've been teaching for 14 years.
14 years.
And I've worked in elementary schools in low SES areas, and I've also worked in schools with high social economic status. So I've seen the full spectrum of differing communities and different students.
Now, anything else you want to tell us? How is it with your staff?
I think that I'm fortunate to have had the experiences that I've had, because I know what it was like when schools were segregated, and I know what it was like when schools were desegregated. And from my point of view, I think when they were segregated, like I said earlier, there was more of a sense of community, because teachers actually knew your parents. They went to church with your families. The teacher could come to your home if they needed to. Compared to now, where there's not a lot of home visits, people, you know, they don't go to school together. You don't go. Your teachers aren't necessarily a part of your community where you live. That's the only thing that's different, and that's why I say, in terms of students, it's very important to get to know the student, get to know where they came from, and, you know, just get to know them so that you can understand what their needs are and how you can help them be successful.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson, and thank you so much for this.
Thank you. You're welcome.